Welcome in, everyone. The Full Court Trap Pod coming at you with half of our usual crew. As you can see, Daniel Fow, our leader and main host, is not with us, as well as co-host Jack Sullivan. They're off doing their own personal adventures, but me and Blake Smith are here to
We
talk
got
about.
you guys.
We got you. The Full Court Trap will always be here at your service.
Yeah.
But emergency pod. Memphis pulls off the stunner on UConn to open up the Maui Invitational, 99-97 in overtime. We've got solo ball with clutch shots, Dan Hurley losing his mind on the sideline, getting technicals, teams fighting each other in overtime, having to be separated by assistant coaches. I mean, is this March Madness already? I mean, Blake, I know that we both were watching this pretty closely. What'd you think?
I had to be woken up by reality after watching that game. I thought I was literally living in March because that game is just down to the wire, a lot of hustle on both sides. Insane, clutch moments in that game. Like how you said, solo ball. He was my personal breakout player of the year in our very first episode. If you guys haven't checked that out, be sure to go and watch that real quick. Um, I I thought he did very well down the stretch. He started off pretty slow, but he ended up making a couple good shots. I thought Diarra for UConn came up with a couple really good finds to Liam McNeely down the stretch, which ended up eventually leading to overtime. I thought Terrace Reed and Jalen Stewart, both those guys off the bench were very special today. Both they put up a lot of points. Terrace Reed had a double-double, and then Stewart had I think 17 points around that range.
Yeah, he had 16 and 5. I'm
16.
looking at the box score.
Those two gave a lot of energy off the bench. You can't ask for any more. And then on the Memphis side, I thought that backcourt was insanely special. I honestly, this might be recency bias, but I think they might have the potential to be one of the best in the entire country.
Without a doubt. And I got to give a quick shout out to one of our members not here, Jack Sullivan. He told the people last night on the podcast, take Memphis to cover the 8.5 line. He could have taken money line straight up there because they got this one done. But man, what a game! For Memphis fans, the story obviously has to be Tyrese Hunter and Haggerty. They were amazing, making big plays. And if I'm a UConn fan, I think it's time to start getting really concerned about Aiden Mahaney because he was a non-existent part of this game. 2 for 7 with only 6 points, not really distributing the ball either, only 2 assists. You gotta, with all the effort they put to get him and all the programs that were after him, you got to produce a little bit more than that. You can't put it all on Caravan and solo ball. But I was impressed with Liam McNeely. He was having a rough game overall, but down the stretch, he had, I think it was 2 clutch threes to kind of spark the rally to get them back in it. And Terrace Reed, you got to be, like you said, you got to be enthused by what he's offering off the bench. Hopefully he can keep it up. But when we were highlighting our exhibition players, and I was talking about Seth Trimble, I mentioned that I was really impressed with him because I thought Memphis would be a solid team, and he dropped 30 on them. But I'm going to be honest, I didn't think Memphis would be this solid. Going pound for pound with the defending national champions and Dan Hurley. Penny Hardaway might have saved his job with this one.
Yeah, he really might have. The past couple years, I feel like all we've been hearing is Penny Hardaway being on the hot seat, yada, yada, yada. And then, heck, he even he fired, literally all his assistants, 2 months before the season even started. And to do that, going into today, against a really tough UConn program, I think that speaks volume about not just Penny, but that new staff as a whole.
Yeah, they definitely got a good core there, and I think this could be the breakout year for Penny. You've been kind of hoping to see that out of him for a while now. He's got the talent in the past, hasn't really had the results to show for it, but if you wanted to make a statement, this is the way to start it off with all of the college basketball junkies in the world watching the Maui Invitational, the debut game. And to get to the other coach on the other side of this thing, who we thought was immortal going into this, Dan Hurley. What are you doing, man? You can't get a tech in OT and
And
cost
like,
your team points like that, man. You got to keep your cool. Listen, I love the fiery attitude. I love like the '90s coaching style that he brings, but the Dan Hurley, his short fuse kind of cost him in this one down the stretch.
yeah, you got to have some in between and like an instance like that. I mean, you can get mad and stuff at a ref. Like, I mean, yeah, sure, they made a bad call down the stretch. But I mean, you can't lose your temper to the point where they end up calling a T on you or a technical. Like, that literally might have cost them that entire game.
It definitely didn't help, that's for sure. I mean, if
Yeah.
I'm Dan Hurley, I think that I got to leave this one and kind of look in the mirror on this and say, what can I do better down the stretch to keep my cool in games like that? But I mean, even with the questionable calls, Memphis, they looked like the better team all night. They let
Mm-hmm.
rope a little bit towards the end of regulation, which is obviously how we got to overtime with that solo ball, uh, damn near buzzer beater. I think there was .9 left when he.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you got to give kudos to Memphis. They were dominating that game most of the way, and they looked like they were going to fold in overtime, but they held strong, and their players made the plays they needed to win. So huge congrats to Penny Hardaway and those guys. I mean, who are they going to be playing after this? They get the winner of, is it Colorado, Michigan State, maybe?
I think so.
Yeah, and then the loser of the Colorado Michigan State gets UConn. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and I mean, we thought UConn was going to be a lock for the final in this, but obviously not. I mean, Auburn and Iowa State, they've got to be licking their chops right now seeing this result.
I mean, speaking of the Auburn Iowa State game, that has the potential to be just as good as this Memphis UConn game.
Yeah, no, we mentioned it on the podcast last night. This is like Final Four level basketball right now.
Yeah, them putting that game first round is so criminal though.
It
Like,
really is. The schedule makers, as much as we wanted to crush them for the early part of November in the schedule making, like the Baylor and the Gonzaga game late,
yeah,
they're making up for it this week. Because, I mean, there's plenty of games out there, just all kinds of content to be made here for college basketball fans. Dayton, North Carolina is still to come tonight as well. That's a really late one, though, 11:30. And yeah, I'm excited to see this Auburn Iowa State game. I think we all, except maybe Sully, predicted Iowa State on the pod last night. Or no, we all predicted Auburn. He picked
Auburn.
Iowa
Yeah,
State. Yeah,
he was the Iowa State one. Yeah.
yeah. I guess while we're here, Blake, let's do our final score predictions for Auburn Iowa State tonight. Who's your winner? I mean, you're picking Auburn, obviously, but what's the
Yeah.
final score and who you think's the MVP?
I think with how these two teams are both really hard nosed, I think the score is going to be somewhat low. I could see it ranging between like mid 60s to 70s for each team.
Yeah.
But if I had to like set a final score, it'd probably be like 75, 72, 71-ish, something like that. I just don't see it being a big scoring outbreak between both teams.
I know Sully, I think in his prediction last night, he mentioned maybe a game that doesn't even breach the 60s, which, I mean,
Yeah.
with the style of basketball being played, you could see. I thought
Mm-hmm.
maybe we would get a higher scoring game, but when you think about these two team styles, I'm going to revise my pick a little bit. I think it's a little bit lower, more like a 62-66 kind of game. Auburn comes out on top, and I think that, I mean, there's so many guys on Auburn's team that you could point to. But I think that Tahad Pettiford, I love his game. I'm a big fan of his. He's one of the star freshmen in college basketball right now. I think he's going to show out on the big stage and deliver a performance that Auburn fans are going to remember tonight.
Yeah, I mean, if he does what he did against Houston, there's discussions to be made about him and his draft stock in a good way, though.
And we got I guess I mentioned it earlier, Dayton, North Carolina. We talked about it last night, how we thought maybe Dayton could find a way to make this a game, depending on which version of UNC shows up. I don't believe we gave our official score predictions, so let's hit that one while we're here. Who we think's winning that one? What's the MVP?
I feel like that game will be a lot different than the Houston one. Or not the Houston one, my bad. The Auburn one.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be probably upper 80s, maybe low 90s. Probably like I'd have to go 88-81 North Carolina.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think the peak version of RJ Davis shows up tonight, and I think they'll win comfortably about, I'll say 85-76. We'll throw that one out there.
Yeah.
And as far as the Maui Invitational is concerned, that's all we're going to have tonight. Xavier in South Carolina, they play in the Fort Myers tip-off. We won't go super in depth on that one, but I mean, for all you gambling fanatics out there, Xavier's 5.5-point favorite if you want to hit that and make your own fade the trap type beat. And we've got, get this, Blake, get this. Arkansas takes on the powerhouse of Maryland Eastern Shore tonight.
Yeah. I mean, they got a couple good players, Maryland Eastern Shore, but overall as a team, they're pretty bad.
Yeah.
From what
we talked about Arkansas last night too. I mean, they, for whatever reason, seem to struggle at just like blowing the mid-major teams and the teams they're supposed to beat out of the water. So
yeah,
we might be looking at a somewhat close game. Maybe I doubt it because, like you said, this team is just not very good overall. But with
like
Arkansas
2-6 on the year.
Yeah, with Arkansas's early season struggles, maybe, but they're listed as a 33.5-point favorite tonight. So,
yeah, it probably won't be close because, I mean, Vandy's kind of considered a weak team in the SEC this year, and Vandy ended up beating this Maryland Eastern Shore team by like 50. It was like 102-63, first game of the year.
yeah, this is a get-right game for all of Arkansas's guys that have been struggling. You want to see DJ getting it going. You want to see Zavon Amir-Visich getting it going. John L. Davis even. I mean, he's been underwhelming to start the year. We talked about it. But as far as the slate tonight is concerned, that's about all we got. UConn Memphis, absolute classic. We had to get on here and talk about that with you all before we go. Blake, you got any parting thoughts? I know you're a big solo ball guy. You got to be happy about what you saw from him being clutch, even though they couldn't get it done.
Yeah, that 3 at the end kind of made me a little giddy. I got super excited watching that. Not really just because like I'm a big believer in solo ball. I just like seeing a moment like that on live TV. It's pretty surreal, dude.
Oh, it is for sure. Hopefully we'll see more of that to come. Alex Caravan had a good game too. We didn't really hit on him, but he had 19. He was pretty efficient.
Yeah.
Yeah, congrats to Penny Hardaway and the Memphis Tigers. That's a huge win. That could be a huge step for this program this season. Dan Hurley, let's take a chill pill next game and maybe not borderline get yourself thrown out while your team's fighting in overtime. And I mean, I'm just saying that game might have ended differently if he just kept his cool a little bit.
Yeah.
For now, this is Luke Tackett, Blake Smith, half of your full court trap pod crew signing out. We'll be back at you with some more content in the coming days, maybe some more instant reactions depending on how this slate goes. Thanks for the support, everybody, and we'll catch y'all later.